you know,
Okay, so it's just gonna be
it is,
recorded, so.
it is.
Okay, everybody, we're gonna open the county government meeting for September. Bill Better, you are up for our historian.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate you for being first on the agenda. And this is to my left is my son Henry Armstead Better. Henry is a 6-year-old student at Ichabod Crane. He's in the first grade. Unfortunately, through no fault of anyone in particular, he was put on the wrong bus today. So I was scheduled to be home at 3 o'clock, where I was going to meet him, and then I was going to proceed down here. And at 3 o'clock, I got a phone call to say he was on the wrong bus. And as you can imagine, there's a moderate amount of anxiety associated with that. And but the school district was amazing. They know exactly where every bus is at every second. They told me where my son was going to be in 10 minutes. We prearranged for meeting. He was down in Stockport, supervised Morrell's town. We went down, we met at a prearranged place. I showed him my ID. They gave him to me, but I wasn't going to be able to take him back home. So Henry is getting experience being a board supervisor. So thank you. He's had 2 slices of pizza and some soda, and
All charged up, ready to go, huh?
I know. I got to get him out of here before that kicks in. So I wanted to update you on the 250th. We're meeting again tomorrow, but I wanted to tell you about a couple things. The first thing I want to tell you about is that, generally speaking, we've had some general conversations about our celebration to coincide with the Flag Day Parade scheduled for 2026. There's been some communication with the people that run the Flag Day, which is a separate nonprofit organization who does an amazing job for all those that have been to the Flag Day. And it's positive, and I want to thank Chairman Morrell because he's indicated some willingness to fund some activities, and we're trying to make it into a very memorable 2026. So it looks like it's safe to say that the county celebration for 2026 will coincide with the Flag Day. That will enable each town to do whatever they please to do on July 4th, 2026. So I know all of you have people that are doing things or have been thought about doing things. To the extent that you're doing something, please feel free to do. As I said, we're going to have a lot of difficulty arranging everything from fireworks displays to people participating in parades like fire departments, etc. So feel free to do what you want on July 4th, because the county's utilization and coordination with Flag Day here in the city of Hudson will be our celebration. So, and I thank Chairman Morrell and everybody who's been involved in that. Supervisor Scalera has been. June, right? And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Flag Day, which is the 14th of June, is second Friday. So it's going to coincide with Saturday. So it'll be great. We have struggled with getting a logo. I believe there's some talk, and we've looked at different logos, none of which were acceptable to the 250th committee, which is meeting tomorrow. But for you today, we have something that I think is getting to that point, and I wanted to share it before we brought it to you in final form. And this is what it looks like so far. This came actually out of Trevor, who I believe is an employee of the county highway department, and he's very helpful. And I guess there was some talk about redoing our signage coming into the county, perhaps not now due to budgetary reasons, I don't know. But this is the kind of thing that we were looking at for our logo. What is it that you see on this logo? And this has been the source of some consternation. But as you remember from our discussions before, our thought process was that there's 2 components of this celebration. One is celebratory. It's the 250th birthday of America. And the other is reflective on what has happened and what hasn't happened. And you should all know that, for example, that most of the towns are having are going to participate in a booklet being prepared that gives a brief history of what each town was involved in during the time of the American Revolution. Columbia County didn't exist at the time of the American Revolution. We were part of Albany County. And within Albany County, there were various districts. Canaan and New Lebanon were part of what was called the Kings District. The Kinderhook District encompassed Kinderhook, Stuyvesant, Ghent, and parts of Chatham. And then there was the Clover District, which is everything south. So it's when you talk about what the county looked like at that time, what we now know as Columbia County, it was a very different map. But we are really blessed historically by having some tremendous commitments involved, some very tight relations with what took place in the American Revolution. For example, one of the reasons we have Claremont on there is that the Livingston family occupied, owned, regulated, controlled most of the southern part of Columbia County. Yes, it was something of a feudal lord, and I'm a descendant of somebody who was an indentured servant on that farm, and it wasn't very pretty the way they were treated. But that's, history is not very pretty, but history is history, and you can't ignore it. You can't change it. You can't ignore it. You got to just deal with it. And but the Livingstons, the Declaration of Independence was actually written by a group of 5 people. One of those 5 peoples was a Livingston. The Declaration of Independence was also signed by a Livingston. So we live in a county that's really blessed with a lot of connections to all kinds of things that were very important in the American Revolution. That's what we want to celebrate. Hence, the Declaration of Independence and the picture of Claremont. Then you see to the a couple of oxen. That's just a placeholder. Let me tell you what that's all about. And it's going to segue into something else that I want to talk about. In the winter, early winter of the year 1775, before the Declaration of Independence, General Washington was involved in a battle at Dorchester Heights in Boston. And he realized that what the Americans in their struggling efforts really needed was a bunch of cannons. And the Americans had just taken over Fort Ticonderoga and another fort, Fort George, on Lake George. They had secured 150 cannons, mostly 12 and 18 pounders, which are pretty big cannons. He dispatched then Colonel Knox, subsequently General Knox, for whom Fort Knox was named, to go there and retrieve those cannons and bring them to Boston. He did that. He started in the winter, in December, by draft horse primarily, and sled. It took 56 days to go from Lake George down through Saratoga County, Washington County, Albany County, Rensselaer County, and into Columbia County. And then he went to Massachusetts, went across the Berkshires in snow, ended up in bringing these cannons, and they arrived on Dorchester Heights, overlooking the Boston Harbor. And what happened was the English were down at their boats looking up, and they said, our cannons can't go that way. And there were 56 pieces of artillery. And you know what they did? They evacuated Boston. That was America's first big victory, because the British left Boston, because they couldn't compete with what General Knox had tried to do. I was asked to attend a meeting of the county historians for all the counties through which the Knox Trail went. In 1926, 100 years ago, this was a very big event. The entire Knox Trail, the entire escapade of bringing these cannons from Lake George to Boston was reenacted. There are monuments that appear throughout the length of the trail. There's one in Galatia, there's one in Kinderhook, there's one in Ghent, there's one in Hillsdale. There used to be one in Corbett, because for a while it was erroneously thought that it went through Corbett. It didn't. It was a huge event in both states. I am very sad to tell you that the state of New York doesn't care at all about this, and is not doing anything for celebration. It actually takes place in 1775, the year before 1776, it was like 8 months before. So the historians of the counties involved have gotten together because the state of New York is doing nothing and doesn't support this. And what we're going to try and do is, at least for the benefit of especially school children, reenact and explain contemporaneously during the months that this was done what it is that these people did. What they had to do was go along this route and commandeer, buy, trade horses, because it was primarily done by draft horses. So we are the last county in New York. We are the people that are going to hand off to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So my job, ladies and gentlemen, is to try and gather together a few people to reenact what it looked like to have some draft horses pull a very large sled with some large cannons on them during the month of January in the year 2025, which is only 6 months from now. So I committed that we would try to find a way to do this for at least our school children to see this. There were over 50 sleds carrying these cannons. They crossed 2 frozen rivers, lost some of the cannons in the Hudson River. They had to cut holes in the ice and took tree trunks and pulled them across the frozen river. And then they went through the Berkshires in the month of January. So it is appalling to me that the state of New York is doing nothing about this. And I want you to contrast with the following. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts is doing a complete reenactment from where we hand off to Boston. They're going to reenact the whole thing, and we in New York are not doing it. So I don't know what this means monetarily. I don't know how to do this. I know people that have draft horses. I know people that have ice sleds. I got an idea for a couple 12 and 18 pound people and some reenactors. But I want to tell you, folks, it's very disappointing that the state of New York has done this and refuses to do anything about this. So I will be back to you and update you about this. But all the other counties have committed to doing this, and I didn't see how that they could end up at the Rensselaer County, Columbia County line, and we do nothing, because I don't think that's acceptable. And I hope you agree, because I'm going to try and put this together without any expenditure. So that's what I'm going to do. I also want to show you around the table are 2 bound copies of the of what has been prepared by the town of Canaan historian. In the state of New York, local history is part of the school curriculum for 4th graders, 7th graders, 11th graders. Dodie Gehring taught high school social studies in Chatham for a long time. She taught a clerk. She taught probably the supervisor of the town again, and any number of other people. And I want to tell you that she is a dedicated volunteer, as is her husband, for a variety of activities in this county. This is the curriculum that she has prepared for what the Canaan area, which at that time, again, at the time of the revolution, was the King's District, comprising about 1/4 of this county. This has been duplicated. It will be disseminated to every school. It is available online. It will be given to every library in this county. Please take a look at it. I'm going to gather it back from you, but I wanted to share it with you just so you can see what these volunteers are doing. We have it for Ichabod Crane. We have drafts for Germantown. We have drafts for, this is really going to be, like, for lack of a better term, the Chatham one, because at that time, the King's District accompanied parts of Chatham, and the Kennewick District did the other part of Chatham. So
Also be 11.
the 11, right, and the 11, right, it's that
11
whole
is-
corner. So what I want to tell you is we are really blessed with some people who have given up their own time and talent to do this. And I don't believe that there's anything else that we can do other than put these together. But I wanted you to see the work product of what these folks are doing. So, and I do this so you understand that this is being taken seriously, and we are trying to do something here that will be preserved for the benefit, especially of children. So, do you folks have any thoughts? This is not the final version of what we're looking at, but it's getting there. Any thoughts, any comments? The oxen will go because it'll be draft horses with a sled.
I really appreciate sort of the bulk of the work that you're describing. It's really interesting history. My feedback on the logo itself is that it's just way too complicated.
I get it. I tried you can't imagine the numbers once I just put it like this.
Yeah, so like it's gonna be like, I don't know, like it's got to be like 10 times simpler or 100 times simpler, right? It's like I'd be like, imagine you being able to look at it like at this size. So like
The agony over this.
yeah,
If you get a chance, look at Saratoga County, because of course Saratoga County was the Battle of Saratoga, which was the turning point in the American Revolution, which took place in 1777. So their focus is not 2026, but 2027. But they have a logo. They're really I don't know if you pull it up, that you'll see it. It's
Where
very
we
simple.
find, where we find it? On what website? would we find it?
Saratoga County. If you look up the Saratoga County website, I mean, I've interact, I mean, they are like, it's big up there. So I'm gonna work with our folks again tomorrow. We have a 250th committee meeting. I'll try to, thank you for your comments. I agree with you. It's been agony. And, but we will do that, because I want to get that out before the end of the year.
Because I assume that this logo is gonna get shrunk down. I mean, this is.
Yeah, but I just, you
It's
know,
informative the way it is. I get that, but by the time you shrink it down.
I don't know. Maybe it's a declaration that I don't know.
Right. So I'd probably just make some choices like,
It's gonna be one or.
yeah, or like, or maybe you could have some witty way of having a draft horse with like a tiny little quill or something, or like a tiny Declaration of Independence, but you probably just pick one and then just like stick with it.
It's hard. And I don't want to just focus on the Livingstons, because there were, you know, they were wealthy people, they were wealthy landowners, they were people that owned people of other color, and they had hundreds of indentured servants, like I said, and they weren't always held in the highest esteem, but that was the time. So I will get back after we work on it some more, but I wanted to tell you we are working on it.
Are you talking about that logo? That's 1791.
Yeah, I thought Saratoga, no, they have a different one. It's called
Saratoga.
Saratoga County 250th logo. See, anniversary.
Oh, I love the 250.
I know, but I gotta tell you, I was
With
thinking
the-
about
That's when we started.
With
this,
the
wasn't
cannon,
it?
right?
About a year ago.
and everybody dawned on me. I mean, everybody disagrees
Put in a horse instead of a cannon.
or something. So, but see, the America's turning point was the Battle of
I
Saratoga.
thought that's what the logo was.
Yeah,
It was a
it
year
was,
ago,
and
but
then-
But it looks great. It's
I-
just 250.
Yeah.
I may go back to just on that, but you can see. I got your message. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks. The last thing I tell you about is Lafayette. You know, he was a French nobleman who really helped the Americans, and he was a hero. And there are some Lafayette related celebrations, and I don't know to what extent we can participate in them, but we might over the next year. You know,
Isn't the Lafayette Trail?
Trail goes through Lebanon
Right. On Route
because
20.
he spent a lot of time in New Lebanon because of the springs.
Right.
He was like on a long vacation. He was French, you know, they know how to enjoy it.
He knew how to write.
He didn't know how to enjoy it. They're smart of it.
But there's signage all along.
All around it
Yeah.
about the Lafayette Trail because it goes through New Lebanon. So,
Okay,
does anyone have any questions, comments? Tell me I'm not going in the right direction.
doing good, Bill.
I'm doing all right? All right.
You want these back, you said?
No.
No, just the book.
Just the booklet,
Okay.
because I gotta get them back because we're gonna inseminate those.
Is
I
there,
think the book looks lovely. I look forward to,
is there, a
a
digital,
copy someday, you
is
know?
there a digital version of the book?
It's online,
It's
right?
online.
It's online? Okay.
Is it on the Columbia
It's on
County
the
Historian?
I think those stuff is on.
I'll check it out.
You
Thank you.
check, no problem. All right, Henry, you've been well behaved.
Good job, Henry.
All right.
Good job. Maybe they'll have you
Next
back.
up is planning.
Well, you gotta go ask the clerk. Go over.
Don't give it into your father.
You're spoiling, Bill.
What?
You're spoiling.
Don't tell me.
What kind of
It's like being raised by grandpa.
Yeah, you're right.
That's the problem.
The red one.
Thank you all.
Sharon.
All right. See you later, folks. See you later. Come on.
See you, Bill.
I will open it. Why don't we put that phone away now? Do I hate that? Off you
Okay,
go.
I have one resolution. It is authorization for the planning department to apply for a pre-qualified Clean Energy Communities Action Grant through NYSERDA. And this one is for, $412,500. It is, being applied for because we have achieved a 4-star designation or will have achieved a 4-star designation based on the other actions we have done, and it will be used for an eligible project, which will include installing solar panels at the solid waste property and also purchasing an EV and performing energy audit for this building and installing energy efficient upgrades at this building. And the reason why we're able to apply for this is because of the other actions that we've completed, the solar panels, the other EVs, the chargers, the electric landscaping equipment.
May I move it? I'd like to move it.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and for all your hard work on this.
Great news.
Next up is human resource.
If we can get it before you have that money, we're all right.
Good evening.
Sure.
I actually read them.
She was bored one night.
I had an hour.
All right, so summer youth, this is just our regular annual transfer, because the money opens to perfect.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And then this next thing is in reference to, thank you, round 2 of our corporate compliance policy review. There were 30+ policies that needed to be reviewed and put in combination with county in reference to corporate compliance. So this is round 2.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Nay? Carried.
Thank you
Thanks.
so
Okay.
much.
Thank you very much.
Boy,
A lot of work for a quick one, yeah. It's like Thanksgiving dinner, yeah.
Uh-oh, here she comes.
She made it work, so I can be like.
All right. We got a staple flyer anyway, so you might as well.
I'll give you 30 minutes.
I don't-
How about that?
No, because I gotta reset the
I'm
computer.
just
So
giving you, I'm just giving
make
you-
it quick.
And I brought Mark along with her. So he can say hi. So there's a new, you may have heard of this Judicial Security Act that went into effect in July of this year. And judges can request that their personal data be taken down from the internet.
Yeah.
And not just their data, the data of their immediate family members as well. They have to make the request to their employer, and then their employer has 5 days to get that request to the appropriate entities. And then if the request comes to us, then we would have 72 hours to get the data down. This would involve our assessment roles, all of the assessment data that we put on the website, as well as final roles that you guys are required to keep in your office. It's hard copy and data available on the internet. SDG, which is that ImageMate online that we use to display all the assessment data, they have said that they have a way to remove that data if we get one of these requests. And the state has updated their program to remove data, although we haven't loaded those updates yet.
Because you always wait for the bugs to be worked out.
Yes, because there's usually problems with those releases that come out. So we are going to be updating that, but we're holding off for the time
Do we
being.
have any
They're
requests?
like removing the entire parcel and all of the data, which we really think is above and beyond what the law actually says. But my first instinct will be to just take the whole entire assessment roll off all of them for whatever town this is in, to get it to meet within the 72 hours and then have SDG remove it as well. We only have a couple of copies of the final rolls, but you guys have all of them. We've talked about, with the directors, we've talked about good old black marker.
Yeah, right.
And you could probably do that on a hard copy if you really can't see, but you still have to know for title searching purposes
Right.
and things like that, who,
Yeah,
and I don't know if there's a deed filed, if they have to, I don't know any of that. That's county clerk stuff, but.
They'll have to tax them,
I'm
so,
sure they'll have-
uh,
Right, but they have to request, they have to say what data they want removed and what entity. So, I'm assuming at some point we'll get one of these, but
you haven't got any request yet.
I haven't.
When did this, was this like a recent law that got passed?
Yeah, July of this
Okay.
year. Yeah.
Last
July
year
of
they
this
talked
year. It
about
was
it,
part
though,
of the
wasn't
state budget. Part of it. It's something that came up for the state budget
Any requests from this removal?
for for a judge.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anything he requests, he or she.
Yeah, as far as for personal data. And it also goes into like cell phone number and things that we don't have, email addresses, social security numbers. We don't have any of that on the assessment roll. So for me, it doesn't pertain to what I need to
Or
carry
we'd have to
out.
go to other agencies for that.
But yeah,
Oh,
they have
just
to,
current judges?
specifically say what agency, what public,
Oh, it gets
information
vetted
they want
somewhere.
removed. Yes, they give it to their boss, court system, imagine, or I guess if they're a local town judge, they could give it to, the
The town,
supervisor.
right?
And then they have 5 days to.
Doesn't give a lot of time.
No, then they have 72 hours.
Yeah.
I don't know, but, so the other question is, who puts it back? Are the towns responsible for following the terms of justices and then restoring that, making a
Right.
request to restore?
I
Well,
that?
that's my other question. Does it go for past judges?
Yes, yes,
Oh.
yep, retired as well.
They could
And
keep
their
it all.
family members.
That could be a lot of damage.
And their
Could be a
family.
lot of people.
How far is family?
Is there any-
It does-
It
does specifically say, yeah.
Yeah, the immediate
Second cousin
family.
might have been a judge.
Yeah, it's,
Actually, it was quite extensive, more
the
than I thought.
individual, the spouse, the former spouse, the parent, child, and sibling.
No, just to find.
I thought that was a lot.
Well, it is, yeah.
They do.
Only one former spouse.
If they do. And, yeah.
Only
you're
one.
So the other question I have is has this been distributed to the judges? Do they know that this is available to them? Hopefully
guessing
not.
if you know.
I knew because I read something on it that
Oh,
came
okay.
through, but actually, I think they emailed all the judges and I read it on the court
Well, and
emails.
actually, what I have here is from the New York State Unified Court System.
Yeah,
To
that's-
all you.
And it was sent to all,
Yeah,
yeah.
Okay.
So
What a mess.
Yeah.
that's
you weren't
just
kidding.
something to give you guys a heads up, and I don't think I was here in August or September. So see, I have.
This is
I have to
September.
take the full
You were here in
Oh,
August.
this is September.
I
Yeah.
wasn't.
You weren't,
No, no.
but September is now.
Okay. Oh,
Right now,
true. I've lost track.
did discuss
she's planning a wedding. so-
Okay.
Okay, so, the next thing is, you may or may not have heard, but the Greenport and Peconic, are currently without an assessor. Unfortunately, their assessor passed away. And, they both have advertised for an assessor, and they both have received, resumes from certified assessors. So they'll be interviewing at some point in the near future and hopefully filling those positions. In the meantime, we've helped to answer questions that the public may have with those. And Mark's helped at the office, and I've gone to the assessor offices like we did for Clover. Just to kind of help out to make sure that things.
Keep everybody running.
Yeah, because, there's no assessor clerk in either municipality. So on to my next thing is the assessor reappointment is coming up. And you should all be aware of it, and I will send an email out to all of the supervisors, but all of the assessors in New York State, their term comes to an end September 30th of 2025. There are a couple of assessors that have indicated to me that they plan to retire at the end of that term. So I'm encouraging you to have that conversation with your assessor to, see if there is any thought of retirement, and to also consider having an assessor's clerk if you don't have one now, because of, instances where the assessor may become ill or may pass away or may, leave for whatever quickly, and the town is kind of, at a standstill. And I can't guarantee that we're always going to have staffing to assist with that.
There was also a lot of frustration this year with how the STAR hearings were organized and poor notice or lack of notice.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know that several of the assessors were really frustrated. by that.
Yeah, well, that's through the court system, and unfortunately, we had 53 small claims filed this year in the county, and out of those 53, it was 42 of them were filed by the same company that
From Long Island.
targets property owners. And I have an opinion on that, but I probably shouldn't say.
But our assessor spent hours documenting her cases in order to
Right.
what she thought was going to be an appearance. And then
Right.
it turned out that she was supposed to have sent everything online to somebody the
Yes.
day before, and she'd not been given any notice. And
Right.
she was taken to task publicly for not
Yes.
being prepared.
Yes.
It was really a
Yeah.
bad situation.
It was, and once I was made aware of that, I contacted, the state. And I also reached out to the county clerk's office because they had said the county clerk's office could assist with this. Because you had to upload the data. If you didn't have an account, then you had to upload the documents that you wanted to present during your hearing. And the assessors don't have accounts to do that. So the court thought that the county clerk's office had an account to do that and could assist the assessors, but it turned out they don't. So then, I pointed that out to the court. They don't have that. So they were willing to work with any assessor, but it was already after that had happened. And I don't sit in on the small claims hearings, but I know, one thing that, used to be done in our office, we used to assist the assessors with some supporting documentation, whether good or bad, to either defend or not their assessment for these small claims hearings. And I know Ron has always been, saying that that was something that would be nice for the assessors to have assistance with again. And so Mark did assist with that this year. And he did a good job with any assessors that had asked for that request. And in Greenport and Taconic, we did a little more work than would, just to help their attorneys to get that information
I
together.
think it'd be great to summarize the data to see what effect Aventine had, because I think
Yeah. Well, I will tell you that there were a number that were filed under the same, not a huge amount, but there were a number in municipalities that we looked at that were filed under the same name, and we're like, okay, well, it's gotta be their owner occupied residence. And then there were some that were filed under an LLC. And the thing with them is they file it with the Board of Assessment Review one way, and they're saying they want the value to be reduced to this. And then you look at what they filed for small claims, and it's a totally different value. And I didn't able to get my blood pressure up, because it's very frustrating. They're hoping that someone will not know, and so I do think that there were some assessors that settled on a number of them this year, and because the assessors do go through a lot of work, and then to have it just
ignored.
yeah, it can be frustrating. So
And I only mention that because I'm thinking of the retention rate, how we're going to keep the number of assessors we need in the county.
right.
That is very discouraging.
And those are the
Yeah.
things that do frustrate the assessors. It's
It
not
is,
dealing with the
yes.
people, it's dealing with the state. And
Right.
Yeah, yes, most definitely. And it definitely was a frustrating process, but we definitely did point out that, okay, well, this is an LLC and they can't do a STAR. And so then they withdrew, but if nobody pointed that out, hopefully the hearing officer would. No, you don't know. And
Used to be a
and
more local
the
hearing
hearing
officer.
officers, we only have one hearing officer that did it in prior, well, at least last year. I'm not sure if he was in other years. All the other ones were assigned, all the Aventine ones basically were assigned to attorneys in Westchester County. Yeah, so, you know, we have a shortage of hearing officers apparently in counties around us. So that was a very disappointing process. But anyway, assessor reappointment, start having that conversation with your assessors and, you know, because you need to be prepared for that, however long the new term starting.
So just, I'm sorry, one last question. How many assessors do we have? I know
So
many
right-
assessors work in multiple.
Right, so right now we have 7 because of Greenport, and Taconic assessor passing away. But we,
Expect to have 9 or at least 8, okay. Because you think that Greenport Taconic will.
well,
continue
oh,
to be
right,
big.
no, right, if they have the,
Yeah.
if they have the same assessor. I do know that, 2 of the people, I think they received 2 in Greenport and 3 resumes in Taconic, and I think 2 of the people are the same.
Okay.
But I don't know whether they would take that.
We went from 3 assessors, to 1 part-time assessor. And the part-time assessor, fantastic.
Right,
She gets done, you know, she
Yes.
calls it.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, that was the big push at the state, and I pushed that too for the towns, because they are making more of a career out of it, and by doing multiple towns, you know, they end up with more of a full-time
Right.
position. The only bad part is they don't get health insurance.
We were working on that, but it's not easy to do.
Right.
Well, because there are 3 towns, the 3 of us were gonna chip in for the health insurance, but then we found out we'd have to do that for any other employee, so that would take us from 1 to 8 employees that would be eligible, so that wasn't.
They get paid pretty well, and they can afford to buy it.
But the other thing I'm concerned about is, I mean, I don't know if you guys are watching your property values, but the sales that we've had this year, we've already lost 11 or 12 points just in terms of our 100%. So we're down to 88.
Yes.
So we're thinking, and based on the experience that we had in the spring, that you helped us through, the state doesn't want us to do trending anymore. So if we're not doing trending and the values are still hot, it looks like we're gonna have to do revals more frequently, and that makes it harder for a part-time assessor.
Yeah, we talked about trending just quickly with the state at our assessors meeting the other day, and I think they're more favorable to trending right
This
after
year?
a rebound.
Okay.
Yeah. So they prefer to see that, and you could trend every year if you want. It's just hard when it's double digits every year. So,
Well, eventually that's gonna skew it, so if you keep doing, you know, if you don't.
right, what they, you know,
We're almost
you just
2
have
years
to,
after
you
COVID.
have to have good data to start off with before you trend.
So does that put us down for a rebound next, 26?
Yeah, I know.
I know you're gonna be going,
I
but-
have to get a quote for you, but I'm not sure if it can be done for 26. We only have 2 doctors and I'm working in Livingston, so I'm gonna figure it out. Well, we're gonna figure out the number of days and how long it
Okay.
will take us to do. One good thing is we have done your town before,
Right.
and we do thankfully have, newer images that Rob at 911 was able to obtain with Eagle View, and they're good aerial images, so that helps a lot.
Well, keep us in the loop.
I know, and I'm gonna get you a quote very soon. Cause I
She already done it.
have to figure out a way to increase my revenue. Well, I'll get asked.
But you know, the Eagle images, that brings up something else that is maybe even proved to be an even more important tool, because for the last 15 months, residents have been increasingly reluctant to have somebody on their property, even to look at the outside of their house, so.
Yeah, and we, you know, they'll hand out my card when they're doing data collection if they have questions, if the property owner seems concerned or whatever, and I'm fine with that. They are hesitant, but one thing that we started doing a couple of years ago, I think we started sending postcards out, but we were doing like the whole town at once. Now we're just doing,
The section you're gonna inventory.
yeah,
We'll do like 300 or 400 parcels at once, so that way we have a few weeks covered. And then we'll go
Right.
back.
We're doing
then
the-
it's not like, oh, I don't remember, you know, getting a postcard.
Can you do
It's more-
legally do drawing, what are they called?
Drone.
Drone.
No, I don't think so. Right. I don't know. I really don't know. But
Satellite.
these aerial images, I don't, yeah.
Well, it's funny, though, they do use drones in real estate sales, and then that's what the assessors end up using. You look and you go, you got a pool in the backyard, didn't know about that, but once the information's out there for real estate,
Once it's public, it's okay.
right, yeah. I see that found all the time.
Yeah.
but-
Our assessor uses that.
Yeah.
So I don't know why,
Zillow.
So there is, you know, that's a very valuable tool to the assessors, and I'm glad Rob was able to get those images updated. And the last thing,
Go ahead.
okay, with regards to assessor clerks, if you consider that if you're a town that's not, I already counted my numbers. 10 towns have an assessor's clerk, so 9 do not. And like for those 9 that don't, to talk with their assessor and, you know, see about possibly doing a clerk. And then you can enroll that clerk in some of the assessor classes, which brings us to the next thing. So Mark's been taking assessor classes and he's completed the data collection and the mass appraisal, sales data management, which is not one that's required for basic certification, but it's one that's available. He's now taking assessment administration, and in October, he'll be going to Otsego County for the farm appraisal. And then he was determined by the state to be exempt from taking the other evaluation classes at this point. So technically, by the end of the year, if he were an assessor, he would be certified. But he and I, as director and deputy director, can't be assessors in this case. So, and I think that's about.
Sure. Oh, very good.
Still got 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Kelly needed some time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I gotta get back online.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Anybody from the board got anything else they want to talk about? Need a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
All in favor? Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.